I'm gonna say something that I'm not allowed to say.
I am the greatest.
Alhamdulillah, tomorrow night I'm gonna smash your boy, guys. I'm gonna smash your boy.
Those people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Monsters and Men podcast, where we study monsters and where we study men. John D. Rockefeller, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Nelson Mandela, Steve Jobs, Jerry Seinfeld, and many, many more. Are these monsters or are these men? And what can we learn from them? Well, keep listening to this podcast and maybe you'll find out. My name is CN. I will be your guide. Let us begin. Alright, boys and girls, welcome to the Monsters and Men podcast. So welcome to this second episode / mini episode / whatever this is. And so for this one, we're going to be focusing on the life of Albert Einstein. And so who is Albert Einstein? I'm sure you've heard of him. I'm sure you've seen him somewhere with his like crazy hair and weird smile. And there's this really cool picture of him with these crazy eyes and is just sticking out his tongue. And it's really iconic. And so Albert Einstein, if you didn't know, Albert Einstein was a theoretical physicist born in Germany. And he's one of the people that came up with the idea of like the theory of general relativity. And what general relativity is basically that like the mass of like objects, right, can kind of bend space and time and everything. And the details of that don't matter as much. Just all you need to know is that if you've heard of the famous equation E equals to mc squared, that's Albert Einstein essentially. Albert Einstein is like one of the most influential scientists of all freaking time. It is insane the kind of influence that he's had on like the scientific community, the theoretical. Like it's so beautiful. And like I'm kind of like you know rambling a bit here, but like one of the things that I loved about like the biography, right? Because like I didn't mention this like the last episode, but like the main source material for like the Steve Jobs episode was the Steve Jobs like exclusive biography by Walter Isaacson. And so what's cool about that and why it's important and why it's relevant now for this episode is that the source material for the Albert Einstein episode, like this one, is the book Albert Einstein, His Life and the Universe, also by Walter Isaacson. And so what's cool about that is that like because I remember reading, I remember picking up the Einstein biography and thinking, why did Walter Isaacson write about Einstein? Because Walter Isaacson writes about these high achieving men and women, you know, these people that are like, that do great things. These are like rebellious people. And isn't Einstein just some nerd or something? And because like Walter Isaacson wrote like the biography of Leonardo da Vinci, also the biography of Elon Musk that came out recently, and the one about Steve Jobs. And so like I'm wondering like why Albert Einstein? And then so when I'm reading this, two things kind of stick out to me is that like Einstein is a very rebellious person. Like he's not afraid of like pushing boundaries and breaking rules as long as they need to be broken. You know, if it means reaching the truth, if it means reaching like a kind of enlightenment, it doesn't matter to him that like, okay, what is the established norms? I think that's really cool. I think that's a really cool thing about Albert Einstein. And so what's going to happen now is that I'm going to get into 2 or 3 like Albert Einstein stories. And yeah, but before I get into that, something I really loved about this biography is how passionate Einstein was, you know, because I'm still in school, and it's so interesting how it's rare to find somebody who is genuinely in love with like their academic pursuits. So rare, so rare. And when you read the Einstein biography, you think about like, because he studied like physics and math and stuff in like kind of like university setting and like a kind of like technicon. And what's interesting about that is that like he would go to classes and stuff, and then he'd kind of come back, and even like as he grew older, his friends and his family, the people that he would associate with, these were smart people that were writing academic papers, people that were like, they were sending letters back and forth, and these people are passionate about mathematics and they're passionate about physics, and it's so beautiful to see, because like a lot of the times school kind of kills creativity. There's going to be like a really interesting story that I'm going to tell later on that kind of like builds on top of that. Actually, let me just tell it now, basically. And so the story is this iconic story about like Einstein's dad giving him a compass when he's like sick, and then he's just kind of blown away at the concept of like, okay, let me just read the excerpt. Okay. The great awakenings that happen in childhood are usually lost to memory. But for Einstein, an experience occurred when he was 4 or 5 that would alter his life and be etched forever in his mind. And in the history of science, he was sick in bed one day, and his father brought him a compass. He later recalled being so excited as he examined its mysterious powers that he trembled and grew cold. The fact that the magnetic needle behaved as if influenced by some hidden force field rather than through the more familiar and mechanical method involving touch or contact produced a sense of wonder that motivated him through his entire life. I can still remember, or at least I believe I can remember, that this experience made a deep and lasting impression on me. He wrote on one of the many occasions he recounted this incident. Something deeply hidden had to be behind things. Now, I love this story so much because, like, this is where, like, Einstein's like curiosity kind of like got instilled, like where his curiosity like fire got like just fanned, like his flame got fanned so hard. And it's so beautiful because, like, I remember reading this thing somewhere saying that, like, younger, like, during like somebody's academic career, like a child's a curiosity is like highest when they're like the youngest, and then like when they're oldest they don't really care all that much anymore. Because like when you speak to like a grade 1 student, they're asking multiple scientific questions like, why is the sky blue, why are trees green, why is grass green, why is this, why is that. But then when you ask a grade 12 student, it's like, who cares. And just the idea of like curiosity, like being such a beautiful thing, being like at the core of like Einstein, who Einstein is. It actually reminds me of this thing from like the Steve Jobs biography, where Steve Jobs is like, in school I encountered authority of a different kind than I'd ever encountered before, and I did not like it, and they really almost got me. They came close to really beating any curiosity out of me. And I love that so much because like his experience is like diametrically opposed to the one that Einstein like had, where like Einstein's like curiosity was kind of fanned, whereas Steve's curiosity was kind of like almost quelled. And like it is an insane thing. Like it is an incredibly insane thing to kind of think about, because like curiosity is such an important thing. And like the thing about school sometimes is that like school sometimes rewards a kind of conformist like mindset, basically, because school is designed to kind of educate the most number of people like as efficiently as possible, and so it's difficult to kind of like pick up the different kind of idiosyncrasies and different kind of like creative like aspects or like creative facets of each individual child and each individual person, and kind of like develop that perfectly. And so like I get it, but like it's interesting to see that like when Einstein was a child, he had curiosity like was like a fire inside of him that kept getting fanned, whereas like for Steve, like they almost beat the curiosity out of him. Okay, second Albert Einstein story. So the second Albert Einstein story kind of relates a little bit to the first one when it comes to like the whole childlike view of the world thing. So here's like the excerpt from the book. So the excerpt goes like this. This is Albert Einstein sending like a letter to like a friend of his, right? Like a friend, like a colleague of his, like later in his life. People like you and me never grow old. We never cease to stand like children before the great mystery into which we were born. I'm just going to read that again. People like you and me never grow old. We never cease to stand like children before the great mystery into which we were born. Like, I swear to you, like the questions that you ask are infinitely more important than the answers that you find, because what society, like the questions that society asks about determines like what we find important. Like when we're asking, hey, why is this? Why is that? Why is this? And so like when we're asking, why is the universe this? Why is the universe that? Like there's a childlike innocence in that has to be preserved from like childhood into adulthood. And like what I love so much about this one specifically is that like it reminds me of something else that C.S. Lewis kind of said. So like this is like, I love this quote so much because it's just like on growing up basically, and how like some of us, I think being an adult is overrated, I think it's overrated. But like some of us, like we worship at the altar of like adulthood. We're so fixated with being seen as mature and adulting, and like there's so much of an emphasis on looking mature instead of like being mature. being mature. And that's like, there's a subtle difference in that. And so like, I love this. Wait, no, there's like a fly in my room. Hold on. Good news, everyone. Good news, everyone. The fly's dead. The fly's dead. Anyway, okay. Back to the C.S. Lewis quote. Critics who treat adult as a term of approval instead of as merely a descriptive term cannot be adult themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire the grown up because it is grown up, to blush at the suspicion of being childish, these things are the marks of childhood and adolescence. And in childhood and adolescence they are, in moderation, healthy symptoms. Young things ought to want to grow, but to carry on into middle life or even into earlier manhood, this concern about being adult is a mark of really arrested development. When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret and would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. I love that so much because to some degree, I feel like it frees me up to be like a little bit more goofy. There's a bunch of stuff that I love and stuff that I hope to love into, deep adulthood, deep manhood and stuff. And like, it's so beautiful to see like that like there's that kind of like childlike view of the world exists in people like Steve Jobs, people like Albert Einstein, people like Elon Musk, people like C.S. Lewis. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Like, I think it's absolutely beautiful to look at the world. Cause like there's this song. Okay, yeah, I know, I lied. The fly isn't dead. Just ignore it for now. So like, there's this song by Bethel Music, I think, and yeah, and it goes like, it isn't about this, but like it's about like looking at God and having like a childlike view of him, where like the chorus of the song is basically, may we never lose our wonder. May we never lose our wonder. Wide-eyed and mystified, may we be just like a child, staring at the beauty of our King. And just like that, wide-eyed and mystified. And I love just the idea that the Einstein story, as well as like the C.S. Lewis quote, kind of highlights this idea of like a childlike view of the world, and dude, I cannot tell you how many times I'm just walking and it's like around 5:30, 6 or something, and I look at the sky and it's a beautiful sunset, and I feel at peace, and then there's this silence that kind of like settles over like the whole earth, and it's just like the sky, the clouds are purple and orange and gold, and it's just a beautiful thing. And sometimes I look outside at the stars, and I just look at how beautiful these things are, and it is a wondrous thing. And just the idea that to some degree Einstein kind of held that into adulthood, same thing as C.S. Lewis, I think that is beautiful. And that is what I want for myself, and that is what I want for like you guys, as like the listeners. Okay. One more Einstein story. And so this story isn't so much of a story. I mean, it kind of is. I don't know. So basically, Einstein comes up with the theory of special relativity. Like, the details of it don't matter as much for like it's far outside the scope of this podcast. This is a business podcast, not a physics one. But basically, Einstein comes up with the theory of special relativity. But the issue with the theory of special relativity is that, like, at the time, there were a bunch of theories about light and the universe that like existed and then like in the excerpt I'm about to read, like you'll hear about one of them. And some of these theories like were theories that like existed for like a long time. These were theories that were long held and long believed by like older like scientists and stuff, whereas Einstein, like, and you hear, right, where like there was like another sorry, excuse me, there was like another like scientist that like almost came up with like the theory of special relativity, but he held back, and where Einstein kind of pressed forward basically. And so, okay, let me read it. So this is from the book. A clear explanation of Poincare, and so Poincare is like the other guy that didn't come up with the special theory of relativity. A clear explanation of Poincare's limitations and Einstein's boldness comes from one of Einstein's successors as theoretical physicist at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton, Freeman Dyson. This is what he wrote. This is what Freeman Dyson wrote. The essential difference between Poincare and Einstein was that Poincare was by temperament conservative, and Einstein was by temperament by temperament, revolutionary. When Poincare looked for a new theory of electromagnetism, he tried to preserve as much as he could of the old. He loved the ether and continued to believe in it, even when his own theory showed that it was unobservable. His version of relativity theory was a patchwork quilt. The new idea of local time, depending on the motion of the observer, was patched onto the old framework of absolute space and time defined by a rigid and immovable ether. Einstein, on the other hand, saw the old frameworks as cumbersome and unnecessary, and was delighted to be rid of it. His version of the theory was simpler and more elegant. There was no absolute space and time there, and there was no ether. All the complicated explanations of electric and magnetic forces as electric stresses in the ether could be swept into the dustbin of history, together with the famous old professors who still believed in them. So basically, let's just put away the book. So basically, what he's basically saying is that the theory that Poincare had come up with, it tried to incorporate these past ideas, from these older scientists, these older respected scientists that came before them. Whereas Einstein was like, yeah, no, this doesn't look right, so I'm just going to get rid of it. And it reminds me of something that Elon Musk says, that the only rules, the only laws are the laws of physics, and everything else is just a suggestion. And so we don't have to preserve the old, for the sake of the new, basically. And this isn't to say that we should just throw things away just for the sake of throwing them away. No. It's important to think from first principles. And so if somebody comes up with an answer, right, and then we go backwards and we start from where they're supposed to start and we get a different answer, I think it's okay. It's necessary. It's encouraged that we should throw away that old answer and embrace the new one. And so just to kind of close this off, Einstein wasn't afraid to be a revolutionary. He wasn't afraid to rock the boat. He wasn't afraid to push forward. He didn't need to kind of conserve these stale ideals and these stale ideas. And I love that about him. I love the fact that he was willing to break rules. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that when I first picked up the biography. But then now that I'm kind of reading through it, I'm realizing that it is important to be creative. It is important to be imaginative. It is important to be revolutionary. It is important to break the rules. It is important, when necessary. It is important to rock the boat when necessary. Don't just believe everything you hear. Don't just believe every single idea from every single person. It's important to examine these things from first principles. The only laws are the laws of physics. Everything else is merely a suggestion. And yeah, I think that kind of covers this second, this episode 0.2 of the Monsters and Men podcast. Love Einstein so much, and I hope this version, this podcast, is better than the first one. And yeah, see you guys later. And until then, do impossible things. Have a good day. Also, actually, before I go, just a quick update on something. I don't know if you guys could actually hear the fly on the audio, because I could hear it from just whatever, because I could hear it. Just a quick update. The fly is dead. Okay, no, that's a lie. The fly is not dead. I didn't have the heart to kill a guy. I just kicked that out of my room. So yeah, the fly is not dead. Okay, I'm just gonna go. Just bye.